What is happening, folks? I'm so glad you're here. This is no April Fool's Day joke. This is a pretty amazing experience. I am really excited about today. But before we get started, let me thank my buddies at 5 Star Guitars. They're right here. 5starguitars.com has the greatest gear. They're based in Oregon, so there's no sales tax. So if you're interested in playing guitar, you can go to the link below, 5starguitars.com/all-access-live. Use the promo code. You're going to save 15% on top of no sales tax. So if you want to be an incredible guitarist like my next guest, you can go to 5 Star and also get repairs and lessons from pros like Jennifer Batten, who does virtual lessons there. Jennifer's a dear friend of mine. We play together, and she has her Guitar Cloud Symposium coming up. She just had her 4th episode with Dweezil Zappa, I believe. This next one is Steve Lukather as a special guest. She teaches a weekend-long symposium with the greatest guitarists about how to get the good gigs, how to navigate the music industry without having too many speed bumps along the way. If anybody knows how to do the good gigs, it's Jennifer Batten. She actually played with Jeff Beck, Michael Jackson. You've seen her in all those Michael Jackson videos. And I'm betting my next guest knows her as well. Man, these guys kind of grew up in that rock and roll scene. So go to guitarcloudsymposium.com. Let Jennifer know that I sent you. If you're watching this on any other platform, I want you to go to youtube.com and subscribe to my channel, All Access Live with Kevin Rankin. I want to thank 5 Star Guitars for sponsoring the show and for hosting this on their Facebook page. Now that you're here, business is done. This is going to be fun. One of my favorite musicians in the entire music industry from the 80s and beyond. And he's here as a special guest, the newest member of Britney Spears' band, Rudy Sarzo. Oh, wait, no, that's an April Fool's Day joke. Rudy Sarzo.
Oh, come on! I thought you knew something I didn't.
I am. Well, it's April Fool's Day. I figured, we could find a good gig. Britney Spears wouldn't be a bad job right now.
Really? No, why not?
Yeah,
You
Britney
know.
Spears and Öyster Cult probably haven't traveled a lot together, have they?
Yes. We do a lot of festivals together.
Yeah.
When I was a member of Öyster Cult. Yeah.
Yeah, like you co-headline those. Britney on one show and then
Yeah.
Blue Oyster Cult. Man, Rudy, this is the first time you and I have had a chance to sit down other than a quick, hey, at the NAMM show. So I'm excited about this. We got a lot of mutual friends. One of your favorite fans was on my show
Yeah.
yesterday, Tawny Katane, and I were
Oh,
talking.
Tony, I love Tony. Yeah,
She's amazing.
she's
And
great. Yeah.
what I asked her yesterday was, I said, you've had a handful of like rock star partners. So those partners notwithstanding, pick your sort of your all-star band. Like, give me the best musicians that you would not the best musicians, but your favorite musicians to line up, not really considering whether they get along or not, right? So she said, well, I'd have to pick my ex-husband probably for vocals, but she said, I don't even have to think twice. On bass, for sure, Rudy Sarzo. That wasn't planted. She didn't know that I was talking to you today. So
Oh, yeah.
this is pretty cool. She told me to give you a big squishy hug, and this is as close as I can get with COVID, right? So there you go, man. And another dear friend of mine too, a makeup artist there in LA, just did some makeup on you. You were doing some TV work right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Access TV or when? I mean, the pandemic. That's the beginning was a year ago.
Yep,
So,
you were in a I think you were in the company of lawyers. There was some trial going on, and so you were an actor in this scene. You had your hair pulled back. I don't know if
oh, that. Okay.
yeah.
Yes. Well, that was for a video for
Oh,
a dear
okay.
friend of mine. She's got a band called Drama Dolls,
Okay.
and yeah.
Okay. I was thinking it was some TV show, and I thought, man, the guy's an actor.
No,
He's you've got all sorts.
no.
Um,
No, the theme of the show, because it's all women in the band,
yeah.
Drama Dolls, and it was going to be like a spoof about Dynasty, the original Dynasty from the 80s.
Okay.
So there was a lot of men in there, actually well-known celebrities, and she called me up and said, "Hey, would you like to come down?" I said, "Sure." So yeah, they pulled my hair back, and
Oh,
yeah, she did a really good job. Yeah, the
yeah.
makeup and all that. Yeah, but
That's
that was way before the pandemic was even
really okay.
a reality. Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah.
I mean, I know that there was not a lot of social distancing going on in the pictures, but she sent me photos, I think, on Instagram, and she said you'd be surprised who I just ran into on set. So yeah, I hadn't thought that maybe that was another hat you wore, but I know that you've got
No.
things way beyond playing music. I mean, I was reading about your animation gig, right? So I didn't know that you're a computer animator.
Yeah, I am trained. I'm formally trained in animation CG by the good folks from Avid.
Okay.
One time, Avid owned a software called Softimage, and it's very sad what actually happened. I mean, but it happens in a lot of different industries that one company took over the market,
Right.
Autodesk. It's good for Autodesk, but what happened was that they Autodesk started out with 3ds Max, and then they acquired Maya, kind of like left Maya alone and try, kind of like 3ds Max is more for the it's like a CAD industry,
Sure. Yeah.
for designing vehicles and more like architecture based. And then for animation, you got Maya. Even though a lot of people use, like I've used 3ds Max in the past for animation, but it's more towards other things, whereas Maya is very much about animation. And and so they acquired Satimaj, and they took a lot of the features from Satimaj and wrote them into Maya, and then they got rid of Satimaj, and it was actually my favorite software to work to animate with.
So you probably have old copies of that are just not being supported anymore, right? That
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it gets to the point that because a lot of the projects that you work on, they're studio based, and you have about 10 people working on the same project, and you want to cross the files and not have to open something in Maya and then transfer that, save it for the to a Softimage format. So it doesn't work. It's kind of like Logic and Pro Tools.
sure, you bet. I
You know.
it, I wonder if anybody out there, the rockers, expected you and I to be geeking out talking about software. But
Yeah.
I wear that hat too. I mean, when I'm
Oh yeah.
not tour,
Oh,
if I'm not touring, I've got a web company, right? A web design and
oh, you
development
do.
company.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to do on the bus. Nice to be able to do on an airplane.
Yeah.
So and, it keeps me from getting stuck in the mundane part of rock and roll, the
Yeah.
travel after sound checks. But
Yeah.
um, I would imagine that this might be a decent time for you to be working on some of the creative stuff, right? That you're not necessarily making music, but you can do some
No, I'm
digital.
making music. I mean, I record. I mean, as a matter of fact, in my room right here, I
Hmm,
got my kids set up.
you
Just like
bet.
I'm sitting here, I just grab them and record, and yeah, it's really interesting because what a lockdown does for us is really forces us to wear different hats
Yeah,
creatively.
right.
So I've gone back to my original uh, direction in the industry because I saw it coming years ago, like in the early '90s, when DAW, the digital software for recording, were kind of like evolving, and you had like Session 8 was like the first, and that was only on the Mac at the time, and then a company from Sonic Foundry created
Soundforge.
and then the Loop software, Acid.
Right, right. Okay.
But it was not available. You could not use Loop in Apple computers for a long time, because Acid was only for PC. And then Ableton came out, and that was the competition, and so on. And that company went through so many hands. It wound up with Sony, and actually, this is how much of the software side I've been. I created the first loop library for Acid
No kidding.
back in, yes, working men's bass is what it's
Yeah.
called. And I did samples, I did uh, grooves and loops. You can still find it somewhere out there. And but what I'm getting at is that I saw this coming as soon as technology came. A lot of people they were more affected by, well, we have illegal downloads and we have all of this with MP3s, and we're not selling as many records. And I looked at the technology as, wow, what an opportunity. I see this is really going to reinvent the music industry, not just from the distribution point of view, because I saw it. If you can illegally distribute something, you can legally distribute it too, if you have the right channels how to
Oh,
do it. Do you know that uh, Steve Jobs approached every single label with the option of him creating distribution portals, and they refused it online.
really?
So what he did is, well, I'm going to create iTunes, my own, because nobody else wants to follow this.
Yeah.
And this, you can't stop progress. You can't stop the future, right? Or you have two choices. You can be a bystander, let it happen in front of you, not do anything about it, but you can't stand on its way because eventually it will run you over.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? So back in the '90s, I saw this whole thing. I saw it happening, and I said, you know what? I'm going to be a part of it. And but what was really interesting is that it was a very equal playing field for every single genre. There were as many loops for rock bands. As a matter of fact, I have, because I used to go to the collection of the from the asset libraries. There were more rock oriented loops than there were hip hop or any other genre of music. But if you listen to how hip hop progressed, it was so intuitive for technology. Now you have like perfect splices on the wave file, so you can trigger with samples on. I mean, it's just amazing what you can actually do with software at this point.
Yeah,
Very affordable. My
right.
first Pro Tools system cost me like 2 grand. 1 gigabyte, just 1 gigabyte of a Seagate drive cost me $700.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? That
It's nuts. Yeah,
yeah.
for my Session 8, system to run on a Mac.
And
You
and you
know,
and you mentioned earlier before we went online too that you're a PC guy now. So, being able to sort of have familiarity with having worked on a Mac before and PC,
mhm,
I would
mhm.
imagine that's probably really. I hear your dog in the background. Mine just came in too. We're going to talk about pets in a second because
She's
that
got opinions. Yeah.
yeah. Is she a Mac or PC person?
She likes my iPad and my
Okay.
iPhone, so I would say she's Apple. Yeah,
Oh, Steve Jobs would be happy to
yeah,
hear that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Jennifer Batten just popped in. I don't know if you saw her quote there or a comment a second
Oh
ago.
no,
And
I was, yeah.
first library, cutting edge, man. Have you worked with Jennifer in the past?
No, no, but we know each
I'm sure.
other. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
she escaped the LA scene and came up here to the Northwest, and
Oh
I
wow.
really feel like I
Mm.
gained a sister, when she moved into this area.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
beautiful, wonderful human being, very
yeah.
talented person. Speaking of beautiful, talented people, you talked about kind of not standing in technology's way, overcoming adversity.
Mm.
Man, I mean, I've followed your career, obviously, since I was a fledgling wannabe musician back in the early 80s, and I was reading about your audition back with Quiet Riot back in 78, which is crazy to me. I was reading some quotes about how people that saw Quiet Riot blow up and watched the Mental Health record get huge on the charts. Um, these quotes from you were like, you know what? They thought this was like an overnight success, man. But we did all these shows up and down the strip, trying to get noticed while a bunch of new wave bands were being signed. And I my nickname has been Kevy Metal, but I've been playing with a Flock of Seagulls new wave band for quite some time now, and
Mm.
so my buddies all know me as the rocker guy. And I thought it was kind of a funny contradiction that in those early days, new wave bands were getting signed, but then LA Strip blew up. And while Quiet Riot may have been overlooked for a while, you guys were definitely the first like hard rock band to go platinum. I believe that's true, right? And I think you represented the industry well before the industry even existed in that sort of like I don't want to call it glam, but the hard rock sort of scene was first. You guys, the early versions of Rat, I know that those guys were another band that was tour, playing a lot before they really got noticed. Um, but the adversity thing, you've probably played with more talented musicians that have unfortunately untimely moved on and still been able to sort of swing with these punches. I'm blown away. Man, I mean, you and Frankie were real close, of course, man. And what a tragic loss. Roddy James Dio, uh, Kevin DeBro, right? I mean, Randy Rhodes, my God, man. If you put together a book on coping with loss, I think a lot of musicians could definitely benefit from how you've overcome that grief process. And
Well, I wrote a book called Off the Rails, and I dedicated the last four chapters to the aftermath after the loss, how we all dealt with it or did not deal with it because we didn't have much time to mourn
yeah,
Randy's passing and Rachel Youngblood, our dear friend that traveled with us on tour. Uh, we really didn't have time because we had to go back on the road with somebody else, and I know the guitar player to finish the tour. And so, yeah, I dedicated because I just didn't want to end the book, with Randy's crash and the information related to what happened, details.
yeah,
I needed to like take it all the way through and show how we all dealt with it. The challenges,
sure. It,
challenges. I mean, I learned a lot from that tragedy. But I even learned even more during the decades. I didn't have quite the tools to deal with grief then. 40 years ago, it's going to be 40 years ago next year. Like I do now, and for what where my perception now is that it's so important. It's our responsibility for the bandmates who are left behind to celebrate the legacy of those who pass.
I completely agree. I talk a lot about legacy on this show because I feel like if we don't sort of focus on those things that we want to be remembered by, the impact. One of my favorite quotes was from Jim Carrey, the comedian, about him telling a bunch of students the impact or the effect you have on others is the greatest form of currency there is, and that effect you have on others is essentially your legacy, right? The memories that people have of you as you move on, whether you've been known for whatever, a massive financial success or big records or anything like that. The people that you've been involved with, and I lump yourself in there too. I mean, like Randy Rhoads obviously changed the industry in a huge way. I remember seeing quotes from you where you were saying that he was a teacher, really involved teacher. Like while he was doing rehearsals with Quiet Riot, he'd go teach 10 hours a day and then he'd come
Mhm.
back and then do these rehearsals. That effect on students is so important, right? I mean, music education is a huge thing, not just for people that want to be rock stars, but it's great for brain development. It's great for a lot of emotional development. You were a part of that from the beginning. You were close with Randy. I know that you and Frankie, like from what I've read, you guys were very, very close, rooming together and sort of growing together as human beings and as adults. And um, I've not talked to anybody that knows you that doesn't talk with great reverence about you as a human. That I mean, there are plenty of people in the industry that can be known as a little difficult to work with. I've never heard that about you. Everybody that speaks about you says that you're a consummate professional, that you're engaging and empathetic. You're an empathetic person. So would you say they characterized you well that way?
I'm humbled to hear that. I I'm a human being. I'm not perfect, but I'm always working on myself. trying to find what my flaws are and how to improve on that. It could be anything. Uh, I mean, and it's a work in progress. And I'll be straight with you. This is something that I usually don't talk about unless the subject comes up. But about 23 years ago, over 23 years ago, I stopped drinking. You know,
23.
but basically, it wasn't even cold turkey because I didn't suffer. It wasn't like I was going, oh my God, I gotta get a drink. No, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I forget about this. I was in the middle of doing something that was very important in my life that I needed to get closure on, and drinking was getting in the way of it because they were just making it into a negative situation, you know. And I said, okay, I have to get closure on this thing that I'm doing, and so I'm going to stop drinking. It wasn't like I thought I'm going to stop drinking for a couple of years or until this is over. No, I said I'm going to stop drinking. And but but having stopped drinking, from what I've learned recently, because I'm a member of AA now, was that I still thought as an alcoholic.
Sure.
You
Didn't have the
start you
emotional sobriety yet.
yeah you keep making the same alcoholic mind that got you into drinking and other things when you were in your formative years to make those decisions. It's the same mind. So just because you stop drinking, the alcoholic mind does not go away.
Right.
You
You got
know,
to work it.
got to work it.
Yeah,
And
buddy.
this is what I've been working on. I am My perception about life and my decisions about life have really changed completely. I I have more sympathy for the people. I used to tell friends of mine who are in the program before I joined the program. I said, "Yeah, you're not really sober until you stop counting,"
Right.
because I thought, "Hey, I
It
I
worked
didn't
for
need a
you.
program. Yeah, I didn't need a
Yeah.
program. I didn't need AA. I just stopped drinking." Then once I joined the program, I realized the importance of that one day at a time, what it actually means, and say, okay, I was wrong, you know, and but I was gladly acknowledge the fact that I'm wrong because now I have a better perception about myself and about life. So, I told people, hey, I'm glad to know that I am an alcoholic because now I can go to the root of problems rather than not being aware that, hey, I didn't know I had a problem. Well, you do. Okay, great. Now I know I got a problem.
And not only go to the root, but you
I
can
go to the
face
root.
but you can face it without the fear, right? I mean, you can actually feel the pain. As a fellow member in the program, man, I'm glad to see, because you and I didn't talk about this before, but you can see when people talk about people's changes, right?
Mhm.
If somebody really works the program,
Yeah.
yeah, you can see night and day difference, right?
Well, yeah, but going back to what you just mentioned, uh, it's to me it's a matter of like, yes, I got a problem, and yes, I got a solution. There's a program that's going
Right,
to take care of that for me. Great. Because I mean, to have a problem, it's like, let's say, unfortunately, let's say any of the, cancer.
right.
Well, there's chemo and this and that, and there's chances and probabilities, and but no, if you're an alcoholic, join AA, follow the program. There's a solution right there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
You
That
talk.
you're gonna come, and I'm not gonna say you're gonna come out of it because to me it's a lifelong journey. It's not like okay, you've been doing this for 3 years. Okay, you're on your own. That's it. You're cured. No, it's being aware that there's a problem that you have either developed or you're born with it. My perception at this moment is that I was born with it. and I'm not the only one. I have that X factor,
Yes, you do.
and it's like, hey, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm glad that I'm at the point in my life that I have actually survived what alcoholism could
Right.
have brought it did bring into my life. I mean, I'm not going to say that it was like blown out of proportion, but it's all relative.
Sure. No,
You know, you know what I mean? So
it,
we're all alcoholics. We all have a problem, but there is a program to help us with it.
it's interesting. It's great to hear you talk about this. A lot of times, as you know, especially in our industry, right? It's almost as a badge of honor, right, to have DUIs or drug busts or have crashed and burned, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
what
know.
people think. And a
Yeah.
lot of guys that I know, a lot of
Mm.
friends of mine have talked to me since I started working recovery program saying, God, I'm worried that I'm going to miss out, right? That's because they don't understand what you gain from
Oh,
working on it. And
yeah.
it's tough because you mentioned the cancer analogy.
Mhm.
The beautiful thing is having a diagnosis, right? If you are like you're dealing with this pain in your stomach for a long time and you're afraid to go in, you finally go in and they say, oh, you've got stomach cancer. Yeah, it's not a great thing to know until you realize there is a treatment program that I can do something about, right? There's a
Mhm.
label that I can do something about it versus just stuffing it away.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I know that have asked me, they've been curious, not just because they recognize a problem in their own life
Mhm.
directly. They know down below the surface that there's something going on, and maybe somebody has not even told them yet, but there's a subconscious thing that they think, I want better for my life. I want a new design for living that's going to make coping easier. My own personal thing, I had a horrible coping mechanism for stress and anxiety and stress and problems. And so I'm so much when you get sober, things don't stop happening to you. Your friends still pass away. People can still get COVID. There's pandemics that appear, but you learn to handle those things with a little bit more um, competence, right? Because you've learned these methods, and I'm so grateful for it. I mean, it sounds to me too like you got to that point 23 years ago. They talk about like a spiritual awakening. Was there any particular thing that happened to you that said, you know what? Yeah, I'm done. I need to change completely right now.
It's yeah, okay. So what's interesting? See, to me, my life is kind of like best way I can explain it is when you work a jigsaw puzzle. You open the box and you turn it, and it's a bunch of pieces. I at a very early age, I started working on the darker shades of the pieces. I found them easier to like stick them together. And by that I mean, for example, leaving my native country of
Sure.
Cuba, coming to the United States, and adaptation, some sort of loss of identity that every immigrant, not just Latin immigrants, but every immigrant, if you uproot your family, especially the children, whether they're from Europe or Japan or whatever country, you bring them, take them to another country, it's like, wow, this is all, especially if you take them to a country that might not have that culture, a lot of in the population. So it's not like you're moving, let's say, if you move to New York from another country, you're probably going to find neighborhoods, Italian neighborhoods, Jewish neighborhoods, whatever, that you can move into and say, hey, they speak my language. There's grocery stores, things cater to that culture. Like Miami has turned into that for Latin America,
Right.
you know. But when I arrived in the United States in 1961, it wasn't like that for Latins. Especially Miami wasn't even close to being what it is today. With the Latin population, and we got relocated to New Jersey, West New York, New Jersey. Still, not as many Latinos as they now.
Right.
You know, so I had to go through a lot of changes and a lot of challenges. You know, but I got to tell you, music.
That's what brought you.
Music is what brought everybody, not just me, but everybody.
Yeah.
And I can pinpoint the moment it happened. 1964, Beatles playing on Ed
Uh,
Sullivan.
yep.
That united, it created a tribe of a new generation. And it's been like that ever since. We can associate just about every social change in the history of the United States with music as a soundtrack to it.
Sure. Yeah,
You
that
know,
because of the way that our country is so new and brought together from all these different cultures, right? I mean, really,
mm,
it's amazing how many guests and friends of mine have said 1964 Ed Sullivan Show, game over. That was
that
a
was
game
it.
changer. Yeah.
You know what? And I don't think you're old enough to say I experienced it, but I did. I'm 70 years old, so
What?
I just turned 13, and
Wow.
this is what
Yes.
happened. In November, Kennedy got shot, so the nation was mourning all the way from Thanksgiving to Christmas through New Year's Eve, and it was like, wow, this is this is awful, you know. And then out of nowhere came these guys on Ed Sullivan at a time where there was only about three channels on TV in 1964. So Ed Sullivan was like, if you own a TV set, it would and if it was on, it would be on that show because it's a variety show, something for everybody. You got Topo Gigio, which was like a puppet, and then you had like dancing poodles, and you had comedians and opera singers and ballet, and then in there you sandwich in a pop act. You know, Elvis played Ed Sullivan in the 50s, and you know every rock band, you know, right? And
Yeah.
then the Beatles were just supposed to be just another rock band, you know, but my generation just took that as like that's the light at the end of the tunnel of what just we've been experiencing since Kennedy got shot. And we just embraced that. That was like a social cultural phenomena to have these guys come on the Ed Sullivan show and all of a sudden it's like, okay, some I'll take it. you
Were
know.
you already playing the music at that point, playing an instrument?
Let's see, I was 13. Yeah, we had a guitar in the house, but it doesn't mean that, you know, I mean, I have a mandolin
Right.
at home. I got two, but I'm not a really good mandolin player, you know, because you
Sure.
have to apply hours and hours to, you know, to really, perfect or, you know, consider yourself a good player.
Sure.
Uh, and I still do with all my basses and guitars. I apply, you know, if I'm not talking to you or somebody else on social media, I'm playing, you know, or working on music. And like I was at the beginning of the conversation, I'm getting back much more into computer generated music because I'm thinking, wait a minute, I was doing that like 25 years ago,
Yeah.
95. I was doing all that stuff, and it's like I got to get back to it because you know what happened to me, you
Well,
know.
you've been busy. You've been gigging,
Well,
like
I've been gigging, and also I've been adapting a not so correct perception about what music means to me.
okay.
And okay, so I started playing music and being a fan and loving music in the 60s.
Okay.
And the 60s, if you look at it, every year you have a new sound. Even the Beatles had a new sound from record to record. As soon as they went into Rubber Soul, that's when the shift started happening. And every from Rubber Soul to Revolver to Sergeant Pepper to Magical Mystery Tour, it was new, different stuff going on, different sounds, and it's like, oh my god! And if you play one Beatles record, you have like, like McCartney's Martha, my dear, blah 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 blah, and then you have like, I Am the Walrus, and it's like all this styles of music, and then the 70s was pretty much like that prog rock. Wow, there's classical and progressive and some jazz thrown in there, and then you got blues from Led Zeppelin, then you got the Who, and it's like, oh my God, this is so incredible. You could go in any direction. Yes, I played disco too, and it was like, even bands like the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin, they were recording their, like Dire Maker was that da 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 da. That song.
Yeah.
It was like James Brown. It was like everybody was pollination of musical styles, and it was like, wow, this is great. And then somehow, some way, because of the image, I think MTV had a huge effect on. Okay, you're a hair band, or you're like Prince and Michael Jackson. You're a new wave band. This is what you guys do. And it was like pretty much the end of that musical diversity.
Interesting. The label pigeonholed and boxed people in.
Pigeonhole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what happened was that we went from selling maybe 50 to 100,000 records per release to all of a sudden with MTV, millions of records.
Sure.
It was like, wow. So the more you sold, the more you were boxed into a genre of music, and I mean, of course, you have artists like Sting who said, I got to break away from myself because I am, the Police was just like pigeonholed into that reggae, new wave-ish type of sound. And even though they started introducing electronica, with
Yeah.
synthesizers and sequencers, still, it was the Police. And he said, okay, I got to go. I'm going to stop playing bass. I'm just gonna sing and play guitar and bring a jazz band with me.
Right.
It was
Right.
like, okay, awesome, and he did it, and he's got that talent. He can do that, But very few bands were able to like, spread musically, And so what has happened is we go into the '90s, and again, MTV, very influential while they were still playing videos. So if you look at it, the last two major genres that MTV supported were rap, at the time was gangster rap,
Right.
then became hip hop, and you have grunge.
Right.
Those were the two. And my perception, because I was there inside in the industry, and from what I gathered from all the information that I got, because it affected us.
Yeah, it did.
Whitesnake towards 1990 was the last record, slip of the tongue that configuration of the band did, right? By then, MTV was on a campaign to project more of a uh, abstain from sex to the kids. When we went from video vixens
Right.
to all of a sudden like no sex on the videos because we have an AIDS epidemic,
Oh,
right?
interesting. Okay.
And I said, okay, sure, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a musician, and I understand that. I get it. So so they found grunge as the perfect format. Like none of these bands have video vixens
Right. That's
in their
true.
music, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. But it was okay to have video vixens in their rap videos because it's not guitar. And
Oh,
they figure the rock fans are not going to be following
the rap and hip
the
hop. Yeah.
rappers.
Right.
But no. kids, they go where the booty is.
Yeah, that's totally
That's
true.
what
Yeah.
exactly. You
Biology,
know,
man.
of
Absolutely.
course,
Yeah.
that's why it worked for us to have video vixens in our video because it was like, well, you got loud guitars, you got guys with big hair, and you got video vixens.
Right.
And of course, the music has to be there too, But yeah, we just stack the deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to give you the kitchen sink here.
Yeah.
you know, you know.
Everything's compelling and yeah,
Yeah,
everything's
absolutely.
yeah.
So that's basically what happened at that period. And then MTV stopped playing videos because they found out that they could actually make money by having original programming
Right.
instead of the channel being basically a video jukebox.
Right.
They have content where people actually sit down to watch this, and in between segments they play advertising,
Right.
commercials. Oh, so we can sell that time because it guarantees that people are going to be sitting down rather than putting on MTV like we do Spotify or whatever channel nowadays to listen to music. Yeah,
This conversation, part of the conversation spurred from you saying this is you said, well, I was looking at what I'd been doing for the last 23 years, right? And you said you reflected back and realized, I mean, obviously the industry changed, right? I mean, really,
yeah.
it's not that you hadn't been gigging. You've I don't know a time in your life when you haven't. When I look through your chronology in bands, I don't know a
Mhm.
time that you had. Rudy wasn't sitting around waiting for the phone to ring, right? I mean, like you've been at sort of the A-list guy to call when they need somebody to
Mhm.
do, a wide variety of
Mhm.
hard rock. I mean, not just a rock stuff. I know that
Mhm.
you're a diverse player, but I look at everything from the early Quiet Riot days to the Whitesnake days. Dio's calling you, Ozzy's calling you, and great, Blue Öyster Cult. I mean, there's iconic musicians that realize that there's only one guy that should fill this seat, and it's Rudy Sarzo. So I know your brother Robert too had been like you guys have gigged together in the past, right? In some bands, I remember seeing him first with Hurricane, and was a big fan of that stuff. But growing up, is he? Did you guys find that you wanted to sort of pursue this thing as a career together? Was it
Yeah.
something that you wanted to be like an allied front? You got bass and guitar, and you're gonna take on the world of rock and roll together.
No, we never really actually sat down and thought about that.
Yeah,
We just thought that it was really cool to play together,
sure,
whether because we were brothers or not. I mean, I love Robert's playing. He's an amazing guitar player. I grew up playing with him. So I know what his roots are and how much time he's devoted, and he still does. And his passion. He's very passionate about making music. No, but we no, but when the opportunity came up to play with him with Jeff Tate's version of what there were two Queensrÿches
right,
at the same time.
yeah,
And I mean, I would never claim to have been in Queensrÿche because that belongs to the founding members, which
right,
I really respect, and I've known those guys since we toured together in 1983. Quiet Riot did a short headlining tour at one point in '83, and uh, Queensrÿche with Queen of the Reich EP.
yeah,
They supported us. But you know what? Going back and finishing that thought that you mentioned, you said that the industry, music industry, change, change, and the problem that I saw was that musicians of my generation, even though we were raised on evolution, going from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s to the 90s, very few of us made a transition into what it is today.
right.
A lot of us stuck exactly where we were at in 1980.
Uh-huh. That Why do you think that is?
Why do I think that is? That is a really good question. That is a really good question because this is something that I have been uh, thinking about today. Today, I mean recently,
Yeah.
and thinking about, you know, I came across a certain uh, motivational. Uh, He's more than a motivational speaker. Yeah, his name is Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Oh yeah, I got his
You know,
book.
Joe. Okay,
Yep.
okay. So he talks about in order to create a future, you have to create the unknown of today, but you cannot bring the past
Right.
because then tomorrow is going to be just like yesterday,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And if then I saw enough video. I mean, I watch them every day, just to get different information. And I'm thinking, you know, the biggest moments in my career have been completely from the point of the unknown. As a matter of fact, to the point that even before I heard Joe Dispenza, I would always say, yes, I left Ozzy Osbourne for Quiet Riot, the mental health version of the band, for the complete unknown. Because
Yeah.
it was.
Right.
There was like, all I know is we got this record, mental health, that nobody in the music industry wants to support. We couldn't find a manager to manage us. It was a miracle that we were able to get the original Quiet Riot manager to actually say, "Okay, I'll manage you guys," whatever. We had this done, and nobody thought this record right here is going to be released in March 16 or something like that, but we don't think it's going to happen, right? Meanwhile, I had just finished, touring with Motorhead and Def Leppard while I was playing with Ozzy, and I could see something was brewing, especially coming from England. All these bands
Right.
that later on became MTV staples like Iron Maiden and Def Leppard,
Hmm.
even Motorhead.
Right.
I mean, there were so many bands that were coming out from England. Uh, so I said, something's going to happen here. For me, it wasn't even a matter of do I have a choice. It was as far as leaving Ozzy, I didn't have the tools how to deal with Randy's passing. I lost my joy of playing. I had to move on. Today, I would have made a whole different decision.
Well, let me ask you about that. I don't want to move on from that without asking you. You mentioned that you lost the joy of playing. You and Randy were close,
Yeah.
and I want to give him that honor. I read so many amazing quotes, from you about that time where you would bring to light things that people didn't know about Randy. A lot of people knew about his brilliance on guitar, and like I mentioned, the humility and him being a determined teacher. I thought that was one thing that I saw that you had said. But another comment that I remember reading about, you had said Randy was still living with his parents when he passed away. That he saved and he kept all of those royalties, all the money he made in the music industry. He hadn't spent all that money on lavish cars and and boats and coke and whatever. Um, to me, I would imagine that may have been. Was that? Do you feel like one of the most sort of powerful things that kind of held you in that sort of grief moment where you said you didn't have the tools and you lost your joy of playing? Was it because you saw that someone that held those kind of qualities could go at such an early day, or
No, it's because I lost Randy.
yeah,
Is I his qualities were just a understood that that's part of Randy. This who he is, what he is. I it wasn't like, oh my god, I lost an incredible guitar player. No, we lost Randy.
lost your brother?
It's
Yeah,
it's the bigger picture of everything that Randy is to me. I mean, Randy is the guy who gave me the break. He put his reputation on the line with Sharon and Ozzy, and he trusted me. He brought me in the band, and Sharon and Ozzy trusted him. That goes beyond
yeah,
what people know Randy as. People talk about how great a player he was. I saw him every night.
yeah.
Not only was he a great player, but he was getting greater and greater. See, as a reference, we got the albums. Those albums were done about a year and a half before he passed away. he was 100% better every day
Oh my
than
God.
he was the day before.
Hard to even imagine, you know? It
Yeah,
really
and what happens is that to me becomes the normal. What's normal in my life? Oh, I play with Tommy Aldridge, Ozzy Osbourne, Randy Rhoads, and then later on Don Airy was added. That's normal.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the band I'm in. That's my
Yeah,
reality.
right.
You
Yeah,
know.
your
Yeah.
reality and a lot of other people's is starkly different for sure. But
Yeah. So
yeah,
it was like it's not like I took it for granted, but it was like this is what I do.
right. It's
You know.
another day at work.
Yeah. And once that is not my reality anymore, that's when you really go, whoa, what just happened here?
Man.
You know, that's when you still really, again, I wasn't taking it for granted,
Sure.
but you don't really feel the loss or actually get a full picture of what the whole loss is until the loss, into that whole, that part of me is missing.
Oh
You know,
man.
uh, over 10 years ago, when Ronnie James Dio passed away, I went through the same thing.
Yeah.
I went through the same thing. It's like I am at his memorial and we're playing. Uh, Wendy Dio asked his musician friends and bandmates to, come up and perform music that he had written.
Wow.
And I'm playing a song, it's all unplugged, and I'm sitting there on stage, and they have the casket, closed casket, in front of the stage, and I'm like, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
He's in that box. I'm playing these songs. I'm never ever going to hear that voice inches away from me. You know, and it's like, by the time that I was playing with Ronnie, it's not that I knew or had any idea or thoughts that he was going to pass away someday, but I knew because I already been with Randy and lost him, how important it is to really appreciate
Yeah.
greatness when it's in front of you, and you're just like breathing the same air, oxygen, as that greatness is. It just makes life that,
Yeah.
gives, special.
It's beyond, dignitaries, really. I mean, we mentioned Jennifer Batten earlier.
Mhm.
She was talking about going to Jeff Beck's wedding a handful of
Mhm.
years ago and talked about the reception, that had, whatever, the McCartneys and the Rod Stewarts and all these incredible, like rock royalty there. And, to her, she respects it. She doesn't take it for granted, but that reality is so hard for people to comprehend.
Mhm.
When I think about who you've shared the stage with, it goes beyond just the impact and the influence that you and those other musicians have had as a Montana-born fledgling drummer in the early 1980s. I wanted everything that you guys sort of embodied, right? The larger than life, the magic, the big loud sound, the not just the image, but everything that it represented. Um, Bulletproof. You were just impervious. You were unstoppable. And you think about those videos and the attitude that kind of went along with all those bands that you played with. It was, you talked about image before and video vixens. That was a big part of it, right? Pubescent boys like me were, like, getting their rocks off and watching, Tawny Katane on Jaguars, of course. But there was something so much bigger, that you felt the camaraderie when you watched that band, and I never wanted to be one of those guys that would go in the studio and just get hired gun sessions. I wanted to feel what Rudy Sarzo and Tommy Aldridge and Randy Rhoads and Ozzy felt on stage, right? And you could see you with DeBrow and Carlos eventually and Frankie, like the smiles and the grins and the the knowing kind of like dialogue that was going on, the unspoken stuff that you had going on, that you just couldn't find in any other career, right? I mean, there was something about conquering the world with the attitude and the combination of personalities. And it's amazing when I think about all the people that, again, unfortunately, that you've lost. And I don't want to diminish any of that. You know, I think about the connection you had with Randy, and I've read so many things, you know, about the impact he had on people. And my God, I'd seen Hired Gun, that documentary movie, where they talk about the crash, you know, the accident, and you were on the bus, for God's sake. My God, man. I mean, I can't even fathom how difficult that time was. Do you feel like you were connected closer to the rest of the guys in the band because you had to sort of bond together to cope with that grief?
Yes, it's an unspoken bond. Uh, I mean, I played with Tommy after that. You know, we were in Whitesnake together. As a matter of fact, we had other projects before Whitesnake, and we never really talked about it.
Really? It
No,
just
because it's unspoken. I mean,
too hard.
it's obvious. It really is so obvious that it's like, why even talk about it? You know,
Did
I
you feel
did.
closer with like say Tommy? Did you feel
Uh,
like
uh,
you had a closer bond with him, even if it was unspoken? Did you and Tommy Aldridge feel like, okay, we were brothers that went through this together? You know, we can pretty much handle anything that comes our way.
Again, it's unspoken.
Okay.
You don't have to even bring it up.
Yeah.
You know it, and it's the same thing with Ozzy and Sharon, Don Airy. All you have to do is just bump into each other
Yeah.
at NAM or
Right.
backstage at a festival, and you just pick it up. You know.
You know, man, somebody that, you know, obviously sort of came in as a hired gun to just help fill impossible shoes. You know, Brad Gillis and I have known each other for quite a while, right?
Mhm.
And Brad talked about, yeah, you know, I got this call to come in and do these gigs, and people are
Mhm.
holding up these posters cursing me out because I wasn't Randy, you know, and he said I wasn't trying to be Randy. I knew that there's no way I could be him,
Yeah.
and you know, I would imagine he says now, you know, he doesn't laugh about it, but he doesn't take himself too personally, you know, too seriously. He's a pretty, you know, as you probably know, he's a goofy dude, man. He's got a great sense of humor.
I love
He
Brad.
he's an
Yeah.
amazing guy,
Yeah.
and while he's dealt with, you know, plenty of heartache and tough times in his life,
Mhm.
he knew that what he came in to do was kind of like sub in for somebody, you know, that was, you know, it was an impossible thing. um, but I'm wondering about the reverence that you guys might even have. I mean, you mentioned you love Brad. Part of
Yeah.
that probably had to come from, okay, this guy's coming in where my brother just was lost, and
And it wasn't Brad's fault.
of
I
course
and I,
not.
and I told Brad so many times, and I'll say it again. I appreciate the fact, and I'm grateful that he came in at a moment where we needed somebody to play Randy's part correctly and let us finish the tour with dignity and the respect that Randy deserves. And Brad did a beautiful job. You know, I you know it, just to give you an example about that unspoken uh, bond that we have. A few years ago, Jack Osbourne directed, produced God Bless Ozzy Osbourne,
Okay.
a documentary, right? So
Yeah.
he brings me in, and we mostly talk about the accident, the crash, and so they finish, everything is edited, and I forget about it. Then I get a call from Jack saying, "Hey, we're gonna do like a premiere at this small theater, very small place in Los Angeles." So he invited me, and I go there, and I hadn't seen Sharon in years.
Okay.
And I'm talking to Robert Trujillo, and I'm talking to Blasco, And Sharon comes over, gives me a huge hug, and grabs me by the hand and says, "We're gonna watch this together."
Wow.
You know, so I'm sitting there through the whole documentary, and anytime there was anything having to do with Randy, she would just like squeeze my hand really, really hard. We didn't have to talk to each other about it. It was just that emotional. We were bonded at that moment. And as a matter of fact, talking about painful, in that documentary, the one who actually talks about the crash is me.
Mm.
Ozzy did not want to come in front of the camera. He wasn't ready yet to open up about his experience to with details,
Yeah.
because I gave the details of what happened. So talking about an unspoken bond, I can't that I experienced it. I lived it right there in that moment, with them.
When you mentioned that you kind of lost the spirit to play, you lost your joy
The
of
joy, the
playing.
joy,
So
yeah.
so yeah, so tell me, like, what brought that back for you?
uh well, I got a call before my last performance with Ozzy, which was recording "Speak of the Devil" live at the Ritz in New York. And I got a call from Kevin saying, "Hey, we're in the studio. We're going to be recording Thunderbird." The band was still called Dubrow. Was not officially called Quiet Riot yet. They were not even signed to any label. They just had a production deal with Pasha, Spencer Proffer.
Yeah.
So, see, the band Dubrow is the missing link between the Randy Rhoads era and the mental health era of the band, because Randy left, joined Ozzy, and Kevin kept playing it around town. But this is at a time where every rocker was struggling because no rock bands were getting signed. So nobody was committing fully
Just playing
to,
with whatever band came up.
yeah, to anything, because we were all like, whatever, if we get picked up by somebody, we're going to go with that, because we might never have that chance again.
Yeah.
The music that we were making at the time, whether it was Quiet Riot or early incarnations of Mickey Rat, or London that became Motley Crue, or Dante Fox that became Great White, every label was passing on that, and so I was playing with Kevin up until I joined Ozzy in his band Dubrow, and also I was a member of Angel.
Oh
Then
yeah.
again, Angel was not. We didn't have a record deal.
Right.
They had just gotten dropped by Casablanca. So I'm playing with Kevin, and he's writing these songs like Thunderbird and Love's a Bitch and Let's Get Crazy and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
songs that I recorded with him in Mental Health.
Nice.
So I get the call, and I said yes, I'll come down to the studio and record Thunderbird. So since I already knew the song, we did it in a couple of takes. Okay, we got it. So there was time left in the session, and so the guys and the producer asked me, "Hey, do you remember Slate Black Cadillac?" And I said, "Yeah, it's been a while, but let's go over a couple of times." And we tracked it. Okay, next one was "Love's a Bitch," and then uh, what else was there? "Let's Get Crazy," whatever. I walked away having recorded 4 or 5 songs for what became Mental Health. You know, and
I had no idea what kind of impact it was going to make
no,
on the
I
industry.
didn't know. I didn't know I was going to decide to leave Ozzy for this band that was making basically a demo in the studio. But that band happened to be Frankie Benelli, who I have been playing with up until then for 10 years. That
Wow.
recording was in '82. I met Frankie in 1972 on my birthday
Oh my
at
god.
the Flying Machine, after his band the night before opened up for David Bowie
Oh my
at
god.
the local arena, Pirates World, and I was very impressed by the drummer. And I went up to Frankie and I say, "Hey, I saw you guys last night. You guys were great, especially your drummer." I had the cheap seats all the way in the back.
Yeah.
And Frankie goes, "Oh, thanks, I'm the drummer." So we became friends right after that, and we started playing together on and off. We toured around the Midwest. We lived together in LA. We went through all of that.
Oh my
So here I'm
goodness.
playing with Frankie again in this little studio, and with Kevin, who I was living with right before I joined Ozzy, and Carlos, who I briefly knew from the LA scene. So it just felt like this. I felt good making music with this because I don't have that, the huge shadow of Randy on stage. Because yeah, I did play with Kevin and Randy, but it wasn't the same.
Sure.
It was not even close. Having played with, we would do like local gigs at the Starwood or the Whiskey. Now I'm on tour with Ozzy Osbourne, playing festivals, and I'm playing arenas
Big.
on tour. You know, with Randy Rhoads. That's the Randy Rhoads that I know.
Yeah.
Of course,
Randy brought you in on that gig.
yes, he did. Yeah, all of that. So it was like that's the Randy Rhoads. When I think of Randy, yeah, I see photos of him and me playing with Quiet Riot in clubs, and I look at it and I go, wow, Randy had the same fire and spark and attitude in a small club with 10 people in the audience as he does if you see a photo of him playing with Ozzy. It's the same Randy, but the Randy that really that the Randy that passed away for that I experienced, the Randy that I lost was that Randy that went from being a local guitar hero in Los Angeles to becoming a global legend.
Yeah.
And I mentioned already, I saw him every day. He the Randy that we lost was the Randy that it was like, wow, this is unbelievable. There's no stopping. I mean, every night it was like magic on stage. Every single night he just outdid himself.
And just a
That's the
kid.
Randy that I know.
And just a kid. You know. Like so, you talked about that transition then, where you got your joy back. Like so, Randy, you were able to play. Oh, well, I lost you for a sec. Hopefully, you can jump back in here. Uh, Looks like we lost Rudy for just a moment. Hopefully, he can jump in here in a sec. It's funny while we were talking, Tawny Katane actually just dialed in here, but I don't know that she knows that her camera is off right now. So I was hoping that she was wanting to come and say hi to Rudy. But while we wait for Rudy, let me just say, my God, I'm blown away. These stories are freaking me out. I thought I knew so much about his history, but him talking about the emotional parts of wow, of Randy Rhodes. Oh, hey, there you are. There she is. Hi, Tony. She's chatting to me real quick. Um, I'm asking if she wants to come on camera. Um, and let me do this real quick here. Let me see if Tony wants to pop on. I'm gonna text Rudy really quick and see if he needs a link to get back in this conversation because we're really having an amazing time with this. So um, he may have. Let me just check. Pardon my French. I'm saying shit. Hang on, Tony Katane.
Hello, can you
I,
hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm listening to your interview with Rudy, and I'm just like,
Oh,
I had a very important phone call, and I went, I gotta call you back. I gotta listen to my guy.
oh yeah. Man, I don't know if you heard me just now, but I'm floored. He's actually trying to jump in right now. It looks like he's dialing in, so hopefully he can jump in a sec. Here he is. It may be the net connection, but let me see if I can do this. Hey Rudy, if you can
Hey,
hear
Kevin,
me.
is that Tawny in there?
It is, yeah. How you doing? Yeah, so now we got Tawny and Rudy, and I appreciate
I
you coming
can't
back.
see her. See her actually.
Yeah, she
Yeah, yeah. My camera is like blocked
How
or
did
something.
you know I was here? I was secretly listening to your conversation, you guys.
Because I can see you. I mean, I see your name. It says here,
Oh,
Tawny Tate.
oh
Yeah,
my God.
and Rudy,
Rudy,
your
did you?
camera's not showing up either. Did you?
Yeah,
Are
what's
you
the
on
deal with that? You know what? Let me look at the settings
Okay,
again. Let's see, video input. Wait, okay, here we go. That should do it. Ah,
there he is. All right,
okay.
Tony, you're next. You got to turn your camera on now. We got to have a big love fest here.
Wait, how do I get my camera on?
So yeah, that little setting. There's a little dial setting, and you can choose video output. Oh, this is fun, man.
Oh my
Like Rudy,
God. Oh my God.
while you're doing that, I
Okay.
oh my God, Rudy, I was when you disappeared for a second, I was getting goosebumps. This is blowing my mind talking about so many different sort of transitions that you went through. I didn't remember about Angel, but I was a big fan of the band. I didn't realize how
Wait,
much time you and Frankie had together. You know, like 72. My God, man, I was 2 years
48 years?
old.
Yeah,
Rudy,
48.
Rudy, you were
Yeah.
an angel?
Yeah, for like 15 minutes. Yeah.
Wait, with Greg Jafria?
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
God. You and I are going to talk later, buddy.
Oh, God.
this is
Oh God.
uh this is this is so much cooler than I expected. Tony, I don't know if you caught the beginning of this with Rudy, but we man, we had, let's see, I'm gonna try and get you guys into a bigger window.
Okay,
Oh, there
here
we
you
go.
go.
That's the
There
one.
you go. Okay.
Yeah, that's the good one. There I'd mentioned that I don't know that I've talked to anyone that knows Rudy that hasn't sort of talked about his glowing personality, how well, okay, that's not what I've heard. It's just that you're compassionate, that you're a sensitive person, right? Which is cool, that you're sensitive to people's feelings, and in a rock and roll world where it's kind of hard and gritty, you're a good guy. A friend of mine who's watching now, Jennifer Del Villar, did one of your rock and roll fantasy camps, and she spent some time with you and said this guy and Frankie too were, like,
Well,
life changing. What's that, Tony?
and like the glowing review I gave Rudy
Oh, I
yesterday.
mentioned it. I asked Tony.
Oh,
I
you
said,
did?
okay, so give me musicians, like, put together the dream band for you, right? You got vocals, guitar, bass, drums. She said, without even hesitating, it has to be Rudy on bass. And I said, well, I'm talking to Rudy tomorrow, right? So it felt like I had it set up, but it really wasn't. Hey, Tony, are you finding the button to turn your camera on?
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not finding. I don't see anything, and I don't want to. I don't want to like take the shine away from Rudy, at all. He's
No,
probably
no, no,
going,
no.
Tommy, we've had enough of you through the years. Like,
Oh,
okay, where do I go?
you guys, here's what I want to know. If Tony, I want you guys both to share an experience that just a funny experience that you guys had on the road that you don't mind sharing with the rest of the world. How about you first,
Oh,
Tony?
Rudy, Rudy,
Okay,
you
let's hear it.
told me one. You told me. Do you remember the story that I hadn't heard before? And you told me, and I was blown away about a particular song not being
Oh,
played. Do you remember?
yeah,
It's
of
not Kittens
course,
Got Claws, is it?
of course. Well, there. Well, if I'll say it only if I can get your side of the story.
Okay, all right. I'll give you my side of the story. Let
Okay.
me find I wish I could find my button, but go ahead.
Okay. So here's my side of the story: is Whitesnake and Is This Love? The video was getting a lot of airplay and radio play, on the radio, but David did not want it to perform it live, you know, and the band we're going like, wow, you know, that's not cool because that's the song that's getting played on the radio, which means that when people come to the show, they expect to hear that song.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why they're there. So so one evening, as David is talking about that, and Tony was present. So Tony turns to me and whispers, "I'll take care of it." Now, what happened, how she took care of it, I have no idea, but it worked.
She's got a little
Oh,
mojo.
yeah. Well,
All right.
but also what Rudy didn't tell you, forgot to mention was that it went through management. It went through the record company. It went through John Globner. It went through Howard Kaufman. It went through everybody. Everybody was trying to get David to play "Is This Love," and nobody could get him to play it. And Rudy told me, he said the next night he came out on stage and he looked at the set list, and all of a sudden he says
Oh.
he read "Is This Love" on the set list, and he was like,
Yeah.
Tawny
Yeah.
had to have done something.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Tawny, what did you do?
Oh, well, we were married. What do you
There you go.
Yeah, no one
Okay.
needs to question it. Yeah, you
Okay.
could
But
withhold.
see,
Rudy,
see-
got anything else?
oh yeah,
Okay.
because that was just the beginning. That was just the beginning of another story. Okay, so we did not have an official keyboard player in the band. For certain songs, we would take turns. Sometimes Adrian Vandenberg would play
Right.
keyboards in one intro. Sometimes I would do it. I
You
even
would.
think Vivian Campbell did that too, right? Okay, so all of a sudden, Cole is like, "Okay, Rudy, you're gonna play keyboards on this song," which meant that it was, it was a DX7,
Yeah.
and half of it was split into a bass, ba-da-rum, bum, 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 that groove, and then ba 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 ba-da-da-da, right? And I'm going, okay, and I'm playing this live. It was not, it's not a tape going on. It's me playing this, right? And I'm going like, okay. So the carpenter that we had on tour with us designed this keyboard that, okay, we had behind the back line was covered by ramps, and we would go up the ramps and stuff like that. So what he did is, on top of the ramp behind me, he put a keyboard that would come up on a pole. The stage of the ramp will pop up like that, and the keyboard will come, right. So there was a huge hole, a gap, where the pole and the keyboard came through, so I could see. And we used to use that area as our dressing room behind the amps. Like, it would be like a little closet or dressing room, right. And every night, my bass tech and or one of our tour managers would bring up naked girls
Oh.
in that area, and they were very willing because they were always smiling.
Of course.
So as I'm playing and I'm trying to keep it together, there's all this distraction because all I see was like these guys fondling
Oh.
this girl while I'm playing this song. Okay, so
That's like 1987.
Wait, I don't think he's done with that story.
What?
87, 88.
Okay. Yep.
Well, I mean,
Years married.
that was basically that was the punchline for that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
not
So that-
what Tawny's in.
Okay, so maybe Tawny would like to elaborate on it.
Oh, this is fun.
Wait, Rudy, is this when I next the backstage passes for the girls? Like, no girls allowed backstage?
No, that was 1990. Is this love? This in particular was 88, 87, 88.
Oh, okay. Well, what happened? Remind me.
Well, okay. Fast forward to 1990. We have been on tour. It was a long tour,
With
and
girls backstage that I was aware of.
yeah, and
You were unaware?
well, this is what happened. We have been on a long tour, and we had not had an opportunity yet for the band and the crew to bond, to have that
Okay.
one night. out in the town. So Atlanta, we're in Atlanta. And somebody that Tony knows very well, his name is Rudy Laren. You remember Rudy? Tony?
Yeah.
Okay. As you know, Rudy used to take care of all the after show parties for Van Halen.
Oh,
He was
yes.
yeah,
Yes.
he was Eddie
Yes.
Van Halen's guitar tech,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So he had this book of information, people to call, places to go to in every single town.
I love the word information, Rudy.
Information, yeah, a database. He had a
Yeah.
database.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
so so he rings up the owner of this place called the Gold Club in Atlanta, which was like high class stripper joint, strip joint. I mean, it was more than a strip joint. They were all naked, walking around naked, completely, you know.
Just
And
reminded me of that story.
so we go there and we see, we're you know we're there having, socializing with the crew and everybody and everything. So somehow, some way, it was arranged. Oh, by the way, David was not there
Of course not.
Of
because
course
here
not.
he was. This is the punchline.
He was at
Okay,
home reading the Bible,
no, he was in his hotel room. And
playing
probably
Scrabble.
on the phone to Tawny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that night, after a few drinks, somebody arranged for some of the showgirl of the dancers to come on stage with us
Oh.
during the show. And and
Oh,
there's actually video on YouTube of this moment.
Oh, really? I'm gonna
Yeah,
be doing some digging.
yeah, and so we're doing uh, "Cheap and Nasty," I believe
Oh,
it
yeah.
was the song, right?
So,
And all of a sudden, these girls walk on stage wearing. Uh, we used to have merchandise. Part of it was Whitesnake G strings.
of course.
You know, yeah, of course, yeah. It's
right.
the '80s. It's the '80s. Come on, and
Class it
and
up,
their,
Rudy.
their top was like, cut. You could see their breasts. The top was of the strip joint. The Gold Club, right?
Okay.
And but the funniest thing was looking at David's face because he just didn't know what the hell was going on.
He's like,
Who are
is
these
Tony here in the
girls?
room somewhere?
Yeah, where did it come from, and what is actually happening? Because they just came on right as we started the song, and they just came in and started dancing.
Oh my.
They weren't stripping; they were just dancing. And so it was a success. We thought. We get off the station. We think, "Wow, Rudy, you're a genius." Not me, but Rudy
Yeah.
Larry. You're a genius. Can you make this happen every night
Every night.
in every city? Because this is like, you
Yeah.
know, this is great production value
Right.
here. And the very next day, things change.
Oh, like if things changed with this, Tony found out about it and said, "No, this doesn't need to happen."
Yeah, I'm still trying to find out who the mole was.
You know,
I had my moles.
yeah,
I had my moles.
what I need.
That was not. It's funny in retrospect, but it was not fun when I heard about it, and I 86'd it. Just
Oh.
like the next story that I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
So here we are. We're in Japan, and we are like being treated to like real Kobe beef. Like, you see Kobe beef on the menu here in America. it's not Kobe beef. You get Kobe beef in Japan. So the promoter takes us out. It's all of us and the wives and the whole thing. And he's spent like $8,000, $10,000 on dinner or whatever the heck it was. Incredible. Well, the next night he was like, I really want to thank you guys. I did. So I've set up. Rudy, do you remember this?
Yeah,
I don't even know if it got to you. I don't even know if you even heard about this.
No,
I find out now if you didn't. Anyway, so the promoter in front of me says, I have set up a bathhouse for the guys to go to after the show tonight.
Yeah,
and
gotta
I
relax.
sat there and I smiled. And as soon as he left, I immediately turned around to Jimmy Harris and David, and I said, that is so not going to happen. And so the guys didn't get to go to the bathhouses in Japan that tour, unless they snuck out around behind my back. But I know David didn't go. Rudy, did you go, or did I unfortunately mix that for you?
Well, Rebecca was on tour with me too. And of course I did. I mean, of course, I've had opportunities of places like that afterwards, and that's not me.
Yeah.
But I must add that we were also not just offered the a bath, but it was having your testicles sanded.
What?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
tell me this story. What the hell is that all about?
Well, that was going to be part of the package.
I think that's probably the biggest reason why I nixed the whole idea.
You didn't want David's testicles sanded?
Yeah.
By sanded, you mean like waxed, right?
It's like a facial scrub.
Okay. Oh man.
Rudy,
Yeah.
I have a funny story, just a really funny little story to tell you. I remember we were in Akasaka. Is that how you pronounce it, right? It's Akasaka. Okay, so I'm in the lobby and I'm waiting for the elevator, and the doors open, and there's the Flying Dutchman, better known as Adrian Vandenberg, to those that don't know him, is his alias. Anyway, Rudy, he's got his hair up inside a baseball hat, thinking that he's going to go incognito in Japan, being 6'5", with everybody who's like, 5'10", and I'm like, Adrian, are you kidding me? Like, you think you're gonna just put the hair down, like you're not getting away with it. But that's how sweet he is. Like, he literally thought, if I just put all my blonde hair up in this baseball hat, no one will know. The whole town, everyone knew Whitesnake was in town. They knew Rudy. Everybody was there. And here's Adrian Vandenberg with his hair up in a baseball hat, like he's going to get away with walking the streets. It was this one of the sweetest moments. It was so endearing.
He fits right in.
But Rudy, I mean, can't you vouch for how sweet and innocent Adrian can be?
Yeah, it's very. I love Adrian. I really do.
Yes. Rudy, the first time that I saw you at a NAMM show, Adrian was, and we were in line. I was by the Pearl booth, and I was getting ready to go see one of my favorite drummers do a little session. There was a coffee cart there, and the line, right, to get coffee or booze or whatever at the NAMM show. For those of you that are watching this in chat, the NAMM show is like this big music convention where music merchandisers and rock stars and everybody else gets together. But the line for booze and coffee, just miles long, right? Because people partied all the night before, and you need coffee to wake up. Adrian was standing, like, letting people go in line. He was so gracious to let people, like, because he saw that they're performers or whatever, so they're gonna go ahead in line to get their coffee. And the dude waited there for like half an hour to get a spot in line for coffee, instead of saying, hey, you know what, I got to get my own coffee and get out here and play. But I thought, good for him, man. You could tell he was so humble and really good dude.
You know what? Humble is a really is a really good word for him. It really is, and which is one of the reasons right after. I mean, when you said put together your all-star band and
Yeah.
without hesitation, like you told Rudy earlier, I immediately said Rudy. Like
Yep.
the first rock star, I could have put I could have put anybody in there. I put Rudy Sarzo because not only is he like the premier bass player of the world, he is the greatest guy. He just happens to be a rock star. He is the greatest guy, and I love him so much. And he knows this. He knows this.
Okay.
At least I hope you do know that, Rudy.
Yeah.
Right?
Let
You
me
I
just.
know.
know.
You know. I
Uh,
love you. But the next guy I put in was Adrian.
yeah.
You know, Adrian, and then I put Alex Van Halen on drums,
Yeah.
and then I put who did I put on guitar?
Well, you had said Randy before he passed. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Robin Crosby. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Of
Well, I
course.
had to.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, of course. How could I not?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. No, Rudy. He's just. We had so much fun, and what a pleasure with everything and Rudy's entire life that he's lived, and for me to be blessed to be able to share some of those memories with him and those years that I got to spend with him. I'm a very, very blessed woman.
Yeah. I would
I'm
say.
one of the very few guys who can actually watch Seinfeld. You know that scene where Tawny is reading with Jerry? I've done that with Tawny in the tour bus.
Helping her get her lines together.
Yes, she will be
Oh.
prepping for a show and she says, read this with me. And
Oh,
we'll
I
be,
love it.
we'll be doing that.
Now you were also the one that showed her the choreography for the "Here I Go Again" video too, right? The splits. You said, "Okay, Tawny, let me show you how to do it." Right? So Rudy,
Yeah,
Rudy,
of course he did.
Yeah.
Of course he did. He did so much better than me. It's just I looked a little, except for I looked a little bit better in the dress, but he was
Oh
better
my
in the
God.
choreography.
amen. Oh my
That's it. That's
god.
it. That's the only reason.
So let me ask you this. I gotta know, since Tawny listed her all star band. It doesn't have to be stars, but you know, Rudy, like I said, man, you've been a part of rock royalty. If you were going to put together, okay, I'm going to preface this by saying when Tony talked about humility, I've said this a bunch of times in this show. As a musician, you can be an incredible musician in a band, but if you don't have the hang, right, then there's just no way that you want to be out on tour 24 hours with somebody. And so the hang is so key and so important. And so having somebody that's humble and down to earth and um, willing to sort of compromise on stuff is very key. So I'm going to have you think about for a second. I want you to think about your band that you would assemble, living or past. Um, I want a drummer, guitarist, two guitarists, rhythm and bleed, and singer and keyboardist. And while you're
Ooh.
thinking about it, Doug Edwards just asked, "Is this a playback?" No, this is a live show right now. So all the craziness that is going on right now, no, this is happening live. If you guys want to watch again, I'll have this archived in a bit. So subscribe to this channel on YouTube, youtube.com/all access live with Kevin Rankin. I'm leaving it there for a second. Now I'm putting Rudy Sarzo on the spot. Rudy's going to give us his band assembly.
Ah,
Wait, I cannot wait.
Oh, and Rudy, I want you
that's
to think of
that's
the
a
video
really,
vixen.
you know, okay, you know what? I'll go I'll go in this direction. I'm going to talk about the musicians who I felt were the most dedicated, that were did not think of themselves as rock stars. They just thought of themselves as musicians, and that's why they did it.
Okay,
They became accidental rock stars, but that wasn't their motivation.
sure.
Of course, Randy, number one. Oh my God! I mean,
Randy's your lead player, obviously, right?
Of
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
course.
Yep.
Of
yeah.
course.
I would go Ronnie James Dio
Yeah,
vocals. Uh, I'll throw in uh, bass player Billy Sheehan.
Oh,
Okay,
it's
nice.
interesting.
Billy, yeah, yeah. Drummer, oof.
Oh, come on. I
You
can't believe.
know, I would say Frankie Benelli on
Oh,
drums. Yeah, because I've for a 48-year friendship. That is, I've seen so many sides of Frankie,
Yeah,
mm,
and when you see so many growth and generations of a human being, it's all about the journey.
yeah,
And it's I learned a lot from Frankie. I learned a lot from every one of the individuals that I just mentioned. I
I'll
really
bet.
did. Even though I never played with Billy, but Billy has taught a- every bass player that I know, about humility and about dedication to your instrument, to music.
That's man, I love that.
Yeah.
How about a rhythm player? Do you have a rhythm guitarist that you think that you'd like to have?
Oh my God. Oh wow. I don't know rhythm guitar
You know what?
players.
It's funny because I mean, there is
you
this
can
an
you can
art.
use Rob Crosby. That's okay, Rudy.
Oh, Robin, yeah, but see, but I didn't. I never got to know Robin as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Who do you look up to when you look at sort of historical rhythm guitar players? I mean, like everybody is always telling me, like Malcolm Young, right, is the prototypical rhythm player, right? But do you have one that you think, oh yeah, that guy plays exactly? I'll tell you, for me, Rudolf Schenker. Rudolph, I think, is just one of the most gifted
yeah,
rhythm.
I will have to go with Randy also on that one.
Okay, you got him doing double duty, Randy
Well, I
and
mean,
Robin.
if you look at his contribution to rhythm guitar playing,
Yeah,
it was massive. That style of playing rhythm. No, nobody was actually playing like that before him.
yeah. God, how fun is this? Really, I
Mhm.
mean, Tawny and I talked yesterday about. I put her on the spot because as the video vixen, right? Not just in the music videos, but on TV and movies, right? She's been with the biggest of the bigs.
Well, she's a
Uh,
movie star. Come on.
she's a movie star,
Oh,
yeah, from
Yeah,
pink,
Tom
yeah,
Hanks to Jerry
yeah,
Seinfeld,
pink.
everybody in
yeah. Come
between.
on.
But I put her on the spot about romantic relationships, right? Because every male from 12 to 70, was thinking dream girl, right? If I had the dream girl, she'd be the girl. And I asked her about ideal dates. Like, what's your idea of a perfect date? Now, Rudy, you've been married since '84, right?
Yeah,
To a
You and Rebecca.
great
yeah,
girl.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and she has
Yeah.
to be a great girl. And honestly, I mean, playing through that sort of that whole like whirlwind of all these bands and all that time on stage, even as a good guy, right? You're not out there hitting bathhouses and hitting the gold club to, throw money down, but it still takes its toll, right? I mean, there's this real sense of trust that you've got to have. And so tell me what Rebecca and Rudy Sarzo do to find romance and just like not romance. Let me how do you find yeah, give me romance in this day and age, like where you come from to now. What's a date night for Rudy and Rebecca?
Oh, it's every night. We get together for dinner at home on the sofa. We have a date,
Who cooks?
and we have a little dog, baby Willow, between us, and we watch TV. We start with Family Feud, and we just pick it up from there.
Oh, old school family food, Richard
All
Dawson?
school,
Or
yeah, Family
okay.
Feud, and then whatever is happening on TV at that moment,
Oh,
we go with
okay.
that.
Who cooks dinner?
Oh, she does.
She does. Okay.
Yeah, I tried cooking 30 years ago, and she said no.
Yeah,
No.
I'm not a great cook either. Sorry,
Yeah,
Tony. But I
yeah.
um I got to tell you, you were talking Miami earlier. There was a promoter for one of the shows that we did down in Miami that took me to the best Cuban food I'd ever had outside of Cuba. Right, I've not been to Cuba, so thought of you as I partook, and I was really I was sort of frowned upon. I was a gringo in this spot, man. So thankfully, I got the best meal, but I like I am a foodie, right? I love to eat. I'm an amazing eater, but I'm not the good cook. So in your household, Rebecca's the one. She prepares
Oh
the date
yeah,
night
yeah.
meals. All right. All right. What is she preparing for date night meal?
Well, we've been staying away from meat lately a lot. As a matter of fact, I don't even miss it. And until she mentioned it, have you noticed we're not eating a whole lot of meat lately? I'm going, oh wow, yeah, okay, no, she's great. I mean, we just mix it up with quinoa, a lot of salads and soups and vegetables and eggplant, and flavorful
Health.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
healthy
man.
stuff.
You mentioned being 70 years old, which
Mhm.
blows my mind, man. This guy, you've lived through multiple generations of the music industry.
I survived disco. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? So I asked Tony this too, and I usually on the show I like to ask people about their guilty pleasures, right? So what a lot of people that know Rudy told me all these great things, but all these people that know Rudy, what would they be surprised to know that Rudy either has on his playlist or maybe that he spends time watching Family Feud? What's a guilty pleasure of Rudy's?
Reruns of Hercules.
Oh,
Oh.
but Tony,
Oh.
of course. Oh my God.
Oh. I
This is a
wonder why I
mutual.
love him so much.
only reruns with Tawny scenes. That's it,
Yeah,
right?
That's
because
right.
he
Yeah.
helped me get him.
Oh
Without
my.
him helping, without him reading with me on the bus, I probably wouldn't have gotten half the roles I got.
Oh my
So thank
gosh,
you, Rudy. Of course.
man.
Yeah.
You
I,
guys,
I
you,
the one that I recall the most is that you were an attorney.
Uh huh.
And
Yeah.
we were in the tour bus, and we were all in our pajamas because we were traveling in the middle of the night from town to town,
sure.
and she's like reading attorney stuff, and we're in our pajamas, and I'm going like, wow,
Yeah,
this.
that's surreal.
Oh my gosh, Rudy. Okay, you just made me remember something. Okay, I will tell you one princess, and I'm sure Rudy can tell you a ton of princess stories. But I've got one princess story that I can tell you, and then I will leave you guys so that you can finish your interview with Rudy that I can't wait to watch the entirety of. I can't get enough of him. I text him as much as I can, waiting for him to text me back. And he's so good at it. But anyway, so Rudy, so David and I, who actually, Rudy, you'd be surprised to hear, when I had to make my band, I put David in as the lead singer.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, like
You're not, yeah, right. I mean, regardless of what happened to us or what that, I think David is probably one of the greatest rock singers of all the. I mean, you worked with so many incredible guys for so long, but David, David. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that can beat him. I mean, he's just a phenomenal singer. Just one of the very, very best. But I put
absolutely.
it, but I took him away and I put someone else in, and I forgot who it was that I put in. But
Joe Elliott.
oh, I put it. Well, yeah, because I remember meeting him. Okay, we were. Did we open or we played with Def Leppard in Germany or something, Rudy? Did we ever have a
No,
gig with
ZZ Top, ZZ Top.
Wow.
Okay, well, why was Def Leppard there? Because I remember David and I went backstage and we met Joe Elliott, and I've been around these rock stars my entire life, and I was like, I had goosebumps when I met Joe Elliott. I was just like, I mean, he's just okay. So yeah, so I put him in because he's sexy. Anyway, so I was going to tell you the princess moment that I remember.
Okay.
That was a constant. So we would travel, obviously, on our bus, which I loved. It was one of my favorite things to do because Rudy knows I am the worst flyer in the entire world. Rudy has seen me a million times on a plane and what I do and how horrible I am. But so touring on the bus is always my favorite. Well, we'd end up at these hotels at like, ungodly hours, and I didn't want to be woken up. So David and I had a butler, and oh my God, why is his name escaping me? Not Jimmy. He was Jimmy. He
Oh,
was Jimmy.
Pete.
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 We had Pete. Pete was like our butler. So what they would do is they would go to mine and David's room, not for David, but for me, and they would duct tape. Oh, did you know this, Rudy? They would
Uh,
duct tape all the curtains in the room so not an ounce of sun would come in and wake the princess up before sound check. Okay?
Oh.
So that's not the worst of it. So they would do that and then they would come back in the back of the bus, pick me up and carry me through the lobby of the hotel and up to my bedroom and lay me down on the bed like the princess and the bee.
Oh my goodness.
I
Yeah.
do. I do recall seeing you on a couple of wheelchairs.
Oh.
Oh my
I
goodness.
saw it.
It's a good thing
Yeah.
cell phones weren't around there to get all this blackmail, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh
Tony
my.
was a little bit of a partier then, you're saying?
No,
No?
nobody partied. That's
No?
the thing about Whitesnake. That's what people don't understand. You know, sure, it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll time, but that's not what the band was. There was nobody in the band that was doing drugs.
Wow.
I didn't do drugs. Nobody did. Rudy didn't do drugs. Adrian, David, nobody did. There may have been a little cognac here or a little Budweiser or something in the backstage, but nobody was getting high. We were the only band out there that was like that, and people are like, they tend to look at us and they're like, oh, rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I'm like, no, we were all married, so that took care of that, and we were rock stars, or
The
they were,
wheelchairs. The
and I
wheelchairs were
just
just for your
pretended to be
fatigue.
one.
We
What?
didn't even eat bread.
What? It was
No bread allowed.
No bread allowed. No
That's
bread
well,
allowed. That's right.
got to keep the physique, huh?
No
Man,
bread, no groupies, no bread. Oh my god, I
oh
forgot
man,
about
like you're just killing everybody's memory or visions of what Whitesnake tours were like, you know. But I, there are some people here in the chat that were saying, "Hey, I'm a keyboard player. We didn't get a keyboardist from you, Rudy." So I know that
that.
you,
Oh yeah.
of course, you
Oh,
played keys on.
keyboarders. It's a dear friend of mine who used to play with Guns N' Roses, Teddy Zigzag.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Teddy. I
that's
love Teddy. We've done like little projects here and there, and he's a dear friend of mine. And yeah, Teddy.
he had the thankless job in Guns N' Roses, really, where it was sort of behind the scenes. You know, he wasn't getting the recognition that the premier members of the band were getting. But
Yeah,
he's a great
Teddy.
guitarist too, right? Teddy
No,
was.
he played the harmonica. He's a great singer, also.
Did
But
you ever
Teddy,
see Rudy on
yeah,
keyboard?
who
Did you ever get a chance to see Rudy on keyboards?
who
You're asking
me?
me?
Yeah, Kevin,
Oh,
I'm asking you.
so you
He
know
was.
what? I saw that the self-titled tour in Billings, Montana. You guys were touring uh, Whitesnake, Great White, Cinderella, maybe is that right? Like the
No,
or Bullet Boys, Bullet
no,
Boys and White. No,
mm-mm,
No,
no,
Cinderella. No, I don't. They
no.
don't. They didn't
but
open.
you had Great White for sure, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because
and
I approved
I've
them.
I've got Tommy. Oh, you approved them. I've got Tommy Aldridge's drumstick from that show. That was those were my formative days. Those were when I started playing, and I oh yeah. So Brian Fuller is saying thank you for the keyboard comment. A friend of mine in the UK is asking about Claude Schnell. What do you think of Claude for keys?
Oh, he's yeah. I never got to play with him.
Oh really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
never. Yeah.
Doug Edwards is asking about Thomas Dolby, and I'll tell you. Um, we toured with Thomas Dolby with the Flock of Seagulls, and I I know that that was a completely different genre, but he did a tribute to when he was playing with Bowie. He did the Live Aid or Live Aid with Bowie. He did a tribute to Bowie right after he passed on tour a couple years ago. That I still to this day, man, it brings tears to my eyes. You know, when you see like that gift and the impact that Bowie had on people, you know, and you talked about real like formative times that certain musicians just had this impact, this lasting impact across the industry. Tawny and I were talking yesterday about Eddie Van Halen, um, and really with Randy, um, kind of coming onto the scene right after sort of Eddie had broken as well. Those were like the two guitarists on the planet, right? That everybody sort of revered. Um, did you know Eddie much at all? Had you worked with him at all, Rudy?
Me?
Yeah.
No, not really. No, I mean, I got to hang out with David Lee Roth basically
That's not
Sorry,
the
because
same. That's not the same.
I got stories.
Sorry.
I've got stories. Sorry, I should probably leave now. I've got, I've got. I'm not me personally. I've got stories though.
Yeah, I'll bet you do.
I'm
yeah, you
gonna.
need a part two with Tawny.
Yeah,
You
do
know
it.
what? Well, here's the thing,
Rudy's
Rudy.
like,
Like,
okay, get her off now.
no, but you know what?
No,
I'm
no,
wondering,
you know.
because Rudy and I we got like into some really I thought too. So I mean, you and I were talking a little bit about musicians and recovery stuff. Rudy, if you'd be up for doing a part two, there are a few other musicians that I talked to that I thought had incredible insight. Dave Ellefson from Megadeth. Dave was so great talking about
Mhm.
really where his recovery time started in the 80s, in LA, in the Sunset Strip. He also mentioned his guilty pleasure that he had to admit having liked disco just so he could get the chicks back then. So I, but if you'd be up for doing a part two, man, I would love to do it because I think a lot of musicians that I've talked to within the last year have struggled during the pandemic figuring out where there's like alcohol and drugs had to fit in their life, whether or not they really needed to make a change. And I think hearing people that have had successful transitions out of that and seeing you're not missing out on a thing, man. You can make it to 70 and still be out here kicking ass like you're doing.
Yeah, what I consider the most important segment about my transition is just the fact that I stopped quitting drinking or anything that gets in the way of life with you. Uh, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Having the fellowship, being part of the program, following the steps, getting because they all lead to God,
Right.
you
Hundred
know, and
percent.
yeah, and anything that gets in the way and cloudies your vision of how to get there, uh, you should rethink it because with a program like AA, it's very spiritual centric.
Mhm.
It's all about that, and that's what I needed in my life to get back the what 40 years ago I had my epiphany. I gave my life to God, and then along the way it started getting cloudy, and even if I quit drinking, that was not enough. It was getting to becoming part of the program. That's what put me right in focus again. My vision was like getting LASIK. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I can see. Ah, I
Well
get it
said.
now.
Well said.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Man,
Yeah.
there are several other friends of mine in the industry, the music industry, that are watching on chat that are also like working a recovery program really, really hard. And I'm so grateful to see that solidarity. It's really important for people to lean on each other, ask for help when you need it.
Mhm.
And it's not just drugs and alcohol. This pandemic was really difficult for a lot of people.
Mhm. Of course.
Mental health was some. I mean, me personally, I hit my bottom during this pandemic. I've been working recovery for quite a while, but my emotional bottom, I hit it. A lot of stuff just came at a point where I had like an identity crisis where the person that I thought I was sort of erased during the pandemic. Not being able to play music and be out there touring, it affected the way I was as a parent. And I was really grateful to have reached out, gotten some help. And so man, I think it's important for people to see vulnerability and honesty and authenticity from people like you guys that talk about, we've got speed bumps that we hit along the way. You're not afraid to ask for help, and there's nothing uh I think uh nothing I think stronger than to be able to ask for help.
Right.
So,
It's definitely it's it may be perceived as a sign of weakness when really it is strength.
yep. I,
It is so strange. And as a matter of fact, you guys are gonna. This is gonna be so bizarre for me right this second because my home group starts at 5 o'clock every Tuesdays and Thursday nights.
good girl.
So I've got to go because I've got my book. I've got to go
Uh,
to my meeting, and I love you both so much. Thank you
Love
for
you too,
giving me.
Todd.
Love you
God bless you,
too.
my sister. God
Thank
yeah.
bless you.
you.
Keep
Love
coming
you
back. It
so
works if you work it,
so
Todd.
much. What, Kevin?
I said, keep coming back. It works if you
It
work it.
works if you work it.
There you
That's right.
go.
All
Tawny
right. I
Katane,
love you. I love you both. I love you, Rudy, more. Sorry, Kevin.
no, it's all right. You'll
Okay.
get to know me at Four Seasons.
Absolutely.
I'll
All
see
right,
you,
sweetie.
hon.
I'll talk to you later.
Take
Bye.
care. Man, how fun is that? How fun is that,
I
buddy?
know, I know. I
I
mean, it's we Tony and I, we've known each other since '87.
yeah,
Uh, and yeah. I mean, I'm very proud of her. I'm very, very, very proud of the lady that she is today. Yeah.
you know what? I mean, as you know, it comes with a lot of work, persistence. Being vulnerable and sort of surrendering is so hard for a lot of people,
Mhm.
right?
Oh yeah.
People's pride gets in the way, and,
Yeah.
and willfulness is really tough. But man, I have to tell you, I talked about the emotional bottoms and tops. For
Mhm.
me, this show is so selfish because I revere visionaries. I revere people that just really work at becoming better humans, impacting people in a better way, being good stewards of the planet where we can actually leave the planet better than when we get here. And I'm not trying to sound corny at all, but those are the things that I heard about you prior to you and I talking. And um, it's I feel like I don't know if you're a parent at all, but I've got two boys, and I think for me, the legacy that I want to leave behind is just knowing that I made a positive impact. I affected people in a positive way. I left the planet a little bit better than when I got here. Um, how about you, man? Do you feel like your legacy? What would you want on your? Because we've talked about these people that we've held high. You talked about Ronnie James Dio. Man, Ronnie is another one of those guys that you knew had an incredible heart. People that talk about him say this guy was, one of the greatest living human beings on the planet. Not let alone singers, right? So, um, I mean, those are strong words, but they're important and they're impactful. What would you like people to carry on the Rudy Sarzo name?
You know, that is really an interesting question because at this point in my life, uh, I see life, I see the universe. There's an order to things, the order of the universe, God's laws. And I grew up Catholic and I always heard about God's will and then the free will. And I'm going like, wow, you mean I can do anything I want? And so that was a little bit confusing. And actually, one of the things that the program really helped me was to realize that I have two choices. I can do God's will or I can do chaos,
Mm,
which means you can either follow the order of the universe, do the right things, the things, human beings, we have free will. A tree doesn't have free will. A tree will do the right thing, which is it will grow branches, give shade, birds nest on it. Maybe there's a fruit, maybe there's a flower. It's what it's designed to do. A tree does not design to uproot itself and says, "Hey, I'm going to move to LA. I want to be in a rock band."
right.
A tree might eventually become a guitar, but the tree did not choose to be a guitar.
Right.
It's a tree. And if you look at the planets, you look at the universe that keeps expanding as we speak, has been expanding, since the Big Bang. All of that. there is a design to it, a correct design to keep it moving forward and growing and expanding. Sometimes we human beings on Earth, on this planet, we do things that go against nature, against the order of things, whether there might be simple things, simple things, dealing with like ourselves. Uh, Name any of the seven deadly sins, any of that, which goes against the order of things, Uh, so my chosen path today, at this point in my journey, is to actually find my way, get closer to God. That's it. I'm not even concerned about what people think about me or what the legacy or anything is, because I'm more concerned about my journey to get closer to God while I am in this planet, and then after that, I'll be part of the universe once again. Just like I'll be energy, I'll be spirit, I'll turn into something else. I see our bodies as like rented cars. Then once we take it to the airport, turn in the car, go to the gate, get on the plane, go somewhere else, and that's it. So that to me is what my body is. And I'm one of those guys that likes to return their car with a full tank of gas and really and in good shape.
Oh,
you
I
know?
love that analogy, man. That is
yeah,
that's all you could hope for.
yeah.
What a great analogy and legacy. Rudy Sarzo, man, this has been so much fun. I got to tell you, what a
Well, such a
funny,
pleasure, Kevin.
really, man. I mean, if guys, if you're out there watching this and you've not seen the beginning of this, I will have it archived at accesskevin.com. You got to see this guy and his journey and this message, man. I am so grateful. I look forward to connecting with you again, my friend.
You too,
You know what I
Kevin.
would love?
Such a
I'd love,
pleasure.
I want to join you on a I want to join you on a tour bus where we could read lines together and just, I mean, I have a feeling that traveling with you was a lot more fun than some of my past band members. So, man, I thank you for making this journey with us today. This has been more fun than I could ever tell you. Congratulations on 70 years old and making such an impact on people, man. Now Willow's calling for you.
There she is.
My pug, Edgar Allan Pug, is calling for me as well. So I'm going to take him out. And guys, thank you so much. If you've not yet done so, subscribe to this channel. Go out and get Off the Rails, Rudy's book, because I have a feeling that we only touched on just a tiny bit of that here. And then Rudy, you and I are going to connect because we got to talk about getting closer and working one day at a time.
Absolutely. God
Thank you, my
bless you,
friend.
Kevin. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much
Rebecca,
for
for
having me
sharing
on
you
the
too.
show. Thank you.
Date nights for you tonight.